The gleaming ships of the Galactic Council hung in the sky like polished mirrors, their silver hulls catching Earth's sunlight. Hanji stood at the observation deck of Earth's diplomatic center, her hands pressed against the transparent barrier as she studied the vessels with professional interest. As a xenobiologist, she had spent years theorizing about alien life. Now those theories were about to become reality. Her daughter Yuna, only 9 years old, bounced around the deck with the carefree energy of childhood. "Mom, they look like giant fish. Do you think they swim through space?" She pressed her small face against the barrier, leaving smudges that made Hanji smile despite her nervousness. "Not exactly, sweetheart, but they do move through space in interesting ways we don't fully understand yet." Hanji smoothed her daughter's dark hair, watching as more ships emerged from the clouds. The arrival had been planned for months, ever since the Council's first transmission reached Earth. The observation deck slowly filled with other scientists and officials. Hanji recognized most of them. Dr. Park from Quantum Physics, Director Lee from Diplomatic Relations, and several military officers trying to look casual in their civilian clothes. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, as if normal volume might somehow offend their approaching visitors. "Dr. Hanji." A young aide touched her elbow. "They're requesting your presence in the reception hall." The council representatives specifically asked for our leading xenobiologists to be present. Hanji nodded, taking Yuna's hand. "Come on, little one. We need to go downstairs." "But I want to watch the ships," Yuna protested, though she followed along. "You'll see them up close soon enough," Hanji promised, trying to keep her voice steady. The council's messages had been friendly, but something about their wording had always felt off to her. Too perfect, too practiced. The reception hall was a grand space with high ceilings and warm wooden walls. Large windows offered a different view of the arriving ships, now settling into formation above the center's landing pad. Hanji guided Yuna to a seat near the back, where other children of the staff had been gathered under the watch of caregivers. "Stay here with your friends, okay? I need to stand with the other scientists." Hanji kissed her daughter's forehead. "Will you tell me everything about the aliens later?" Yuna asked, her eyes bright with curiosity. "Every detail," Hanji promised. She took her place among the other scientists just as the first signs of movement appeared at the hall's main doors. The room fell silent. Hanji could hear her own heartbeat in her ears as the doors slowly opened. The council representatives who entered were nothing like the classic gray aliens of old Earth media. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies wrapped in flowing robes that seemed to shift colors with each movement. Their faces were elegant and almost human-like, but with subtle differences that made them unmistakably alien. Eyes spaced slightly too far apart, necks a bit too long, fingers that bent in unusual ways. "Welcome to Earth." Director Lee stepped forward, bowing slightly. "We are honored by your presence." The tallest of the council representatives stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was melodious and perfect, as if it had been studying human speech for centuries. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Council. Your world has shown great promise." Hanji studied their visitors with trained eyes, noting every detail. The way they moved spoke of enhanced muscular control. Their eyes, with pupils that adjusted like camera lenses, suggested advanced biological engineering. These weren't just representatives of an alien species, they were the product of countless generations of careful development. The lead representative's gaze swept the room, pausing briefly on the children in the back before focusing on the gathered scientists. "We have watched your species with great interest. Your progress, while modest, shows potential that could be properly directed." Something in the way it said those last words made Hanji's skin prickle. She glanced back at Yuna, who was watching the aliens with wide-eyed wonder, and felt a sudden urge to grab her daughter and run. "We offer Earth membership in the Galactic Council," the representative continued. "Under our guidance, your species can avoid the mistakes that have plagued so many developing civilizations. We will help you grow appropriately." The room erupted in excited whispers. Hanji remained silent, watching as the representatives smiled at the human reaction. Their smiles were perfect, practiced, and didn't quite reach their eyes. Of course, there will be certain protocols to follow. Another representative added smoothly. Standards that must be met. Restrictions that must be accepted. All for the greater good of galactic harmony. Director Lee was nodding enthusiastically. We would be honored to learn from your wisdom. Hanji felt her stomach twist. As a scientist, she should have been thrilled at this moment of first contact. Instead, all she could think about was how a spider smiles at a fly before wrapping it in silk. The representatives began moving through the crowd, speaking to various officials and scientists. When they reached Hanji, their eyes lingered on her identification badge. Ah, a xenobiologist, the lead representative said. How fascinating that you studied us before knowing we existed. We look forward to correcting any misconceptions in your research. Hanji bowed politely, fighting to keep her face neutral. We have much to learn, she said carefully. Yes, the representative agreed, its perfect smile unchanged. You do. Later that night, as Hanji tucked Yuna into bed, her daughter couldn't stop talking about the exciting day. They're so pretty, Mom. And their clothes. Do you think they'll teach us how to make things like that? Hanji sat on the edge of the bed, running her fingers through Yuna's hair. I'm sure they'll teach us many things, sweetheart. Are you going to work with them? Since you study aliens. Yes, Hanji said quietly. I'll be working very closely with them. After Yuna fell asleep, Hanji stood at her apartment window, watching the council ships glowing softly in the night sky. Their presence should have felt like a triumph, proof that humanity wasn't alone, that they had a place among the stars. Instead, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just been added to a very expensive zoo. The bars might be golden, but they were bars nonetheless. As she watched another council ship descend through the clouds, Hanji made a silent promise to herself and to Yuna. She would play along, learn everything she could, and make sure that whatever the council's true intentions were, humanity, and her daughter, would be ready. The age of humanity's innocence was ending. Hanji just hoped they would be strong enough for whatever came next. 3 years into Earth's membership in the Galactic Council, Hanji stood in her laboratory, examining the latest set of restrictions delivered to her department. The document was filled with elegant phrases about safety protocols and developmental guidelines, but the meaning was clear. Human scientific research was being further limited. She glanced at the clock and quickly packed her things. Yuna would be finishing her council-approved classes soon, and Hanji never missed picking her up. The halls of the research center were quieter now than they had been before the council arrived. Many of her colleagues had been reassigned to council-supervised projects, their own research deemed too unstable for independent pursuit. Outside, the ever-present council ships drifted through the sky like watchful silver eyes. Hanji remembered how beautiful they had once seemed. Now they just reminded her of security cameras. She found Yuna in the Learning Center's main hall, surrounded by floating holographic displays. Her daughter's fingers danced through the alien interface with natural grace, manipulating complex technical diagrams that would have confused most adults. A council education observer stood nearby, its perfect face showing what might have been genuine interest. Mom. Yuna's face lit up. Look what I figured out. She gestured at the display, and the technical diagram transformed into a working model of a council gravity drive. If you adjust the field harmonics like this, you can improve efficiency by 30%. The observer's head tilted slightly. Most impressive, young one. Such innovation is unexpected. Hanji felt a chill at those words. She learned to read between the lines of council speech. Unexpected meant concerning. Concerning meant requiring attention. And council attention was the last thing she wanted for her daughter. Time to go home, Yuna, Hanji said quickly. You can tell me all about it over dinner. On their way home, Yuna chatted excitedly about her discoveries. Hanji listened with growing unease. Her daughter had always been bright, but this level of understanding alien technology was extraordinary, and the council was noticing. And then, Ji-min showed me how to access the secondary systems, and we found all these interesting files about human neural patterns. Did you know our brains process information differently than any other council species? Han-ji nearly stopped walking. You accessed council files, just the educational ones, Yuna said innocently. They're not locked or anything. The council says they want us to learn. At home, while Yuna did her homework, Han-ji received a message on her council-issued communicator. Her heart sank as she read it. The council was announcing a new youth excellence program, special advanced classes for gifted human children. That night, after Yuna was asleep, Han-ji secretly accessed her old research files, the ones from before the council arrived. She had been studying convergent evolution, theorizing how different species might develop similar traits. One paper had suggested that isolation and constraint could drive rapid adaptation. She looked at recent data from her lab. Human children born since the council's arrival were showing accelerated development in problem-solving and technology comprehension. The council wasn't just watching this happen, they were measuring it. A knock at her door made her jump. She quickly closed the files. Through the peephole, she saw Mr. Kim from the apartment next door, looking troubled. "Have you seen the announcement?" he asked when she opened the door. "About the new program." Han-ji nodded. "Your son was selected too. Min-ho got the notification today. He's excited, but..." Mr. Kim glanced down the hall nervously. "Something feels wrong." The council observer watched him all day in class. They never paid attention before. "They're watching all the children now," Han-ji said quietly, "especially the ones who understand their technology." "What do we do?" Han-ji thought of Yuna's bright eyes as she manipulated alien machines she shouldn't have been able to comprehend. "For now, we watch, we learn, and we prepare." The next day, Han-ji noticed more council ships than usual hovering over the city. In her lab, she found new restrictions on studying human cognitive development. The council was closing doors before humans even knew they existed. During Yuna's class, Han-ji secretly observed from the hallway. Her daughter was teaching other children how to access deeper levels of council systems, her small hands confidently guiding them through alien interfaces. The council observer watched with that same perfect smile, making notes on a floating screen. That evening, as they walked home, Yuna tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mom, is it true we're going to get special classes? Ji-min says the council picked some of us for advanced learning." Han-ji looked down at her daughter's eager face and forced a smile. "Yes, they did. But remember what I taught you about observing before acting?" Yuna nodded seriously. "Always understand the whole situation before making a move." "Good girl." Han-ji squeezed her hand. "The council has many things to teach us, but we have things to teach them too. They just don't know it yet." From their apartment window, they watched the sunset paint the council ships in shades of gold. They looked like beautiful cages floating in the sky, Han-ji thought. But what the council didn't understand was that humans had been breaking out of cages since they first learned to use tools. She watched Yuna playing with a council data tablet, effortlessly solving problems that should have been beyond human capability. The council thought they were taming humanity by raising their children in a controlled environment. They didn't realize they were actually creating something new, a generation that understood their technology as well as they did. The cage might be golden, but its bars were already beginning to bend. 1 month into the Youth Excellence Program, Han-ji stared at her communication screen, reading Yuna's latest message for the 10th time. The words were perfect, too perfect, like they had been filtered through council translation software. "Dear Mother, the program continues to challenge and enlighten us. Our understanding grows daily. The council provides excellent care. Please do not worry about the reduced communication schedule. It is necessary for optimal learning conditions." Han-ji's fingers traced the screen. This wasn't how her daughter wrote. Yuna's messages were usually full of excitement, random observations, and at least 3 spelling mistakes. This read like a council report. In her lab, Hanji began noticing patterns. Other parents of program participants reported similar changes in their children's messages. All communications came at exactly the same time, with similar phrasing. When she tried to visit the program's learning center, she found the location had been moved to a more suitable facility off-planet. Late one night, Hanji used her scientific clearance to access the Council's research database. She wasn't supposed to look at files outside her field, but she had learned to exploit small gaps in their security. The Council's perfect systems had tiny flaws that human minds were surprisingly good at finding. The first encrypted files she found made her blood run cold. Charts tracking human neural development showed rapid changes in program participants. Notes discussed unprecedented adaptation rates and optimal harvesting conditions. Hanji dug deeper, her hands shaking as she bypassed security protocols. More files revealed the truth. The Council had been searching the galaxy for species with unique cognitive abilities. Humans had something they hadn't seen before, the ability to understand and improve Council technology in ways even they couldn't predict. A new message appeared on her screen. Your access to this terminal has been noted. Please remain at your station for security processing. Hanji quickly copied key files to her personal device and erased her access traces. She was halfway to the exit when she heard the smooth whir of Council security drones. Racing through back corridors, she made it to her apartment just as alarms began sounding in the distance. She packed quickly. Emergency supplies, hidden data crystals, and most importantly, the old family photos of Yuna that proved who her daughter really was. A knock at her door made her freeze. Dr. Hanji. It was Mr. Kim's voice. Please, I need help. They took Minho too. She opened the door carefully. Mr. Kim looked terrible, his face pale and drawn. I found something, he whispered. In the Council's medical files. They're not just teaching our children, they're changing them. Hanji pulled him inside as a Council ship passed by her window. I know. They're using the program to accelerate human evolution. They want to harness our ability to innovate. But why? They're so far advanced. Because they can't do it themselves anymore. Hanji explained, showing him the files she'd stolen. The Council species engineered themselves for perfection generations ago. They lost the ability to think in new ways. But humans, we're still evolving, still adapting. And our children are doing it faster than anyone expected. More alarms sounded outside. Mr. Kim peered through the window. Council security is entering the building. We have to go. Not without our children, Hanji said firmly. She pulled out a data pad showing orbital patterns of Council ships. Look at these transport schedules. They're moving the children to a research station in the Carina sector. If we can access a communication hub, we might be able to reach them. The children might not want to leave, Mr. Kim said quietly. The files show they're using neural modification. They could be changing how our children think. Hanji's jaw tightened. They can modify their brains, but they can't change who they are. Yuna is my daughter. She'll remember that when she sees me. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Hanji quickly sent encoded copies of her evidence to other parents of program participants. Even if she was caught, the truth would spread. They escaped through the building's maintenance tunnels as Council security broke down her door. Above them, more ships gathered like storm clouds, their golden light now seeming less like protection and more like searchlights. In an abandoned subway station, Hanji met other parents who had discovered the truth. They shared information, building a clearer picture of the Council's plans. The Youth Excellence Program wasn't just on Earth. Similar programs were running on other worlds, all feeding into the Council's grand experiment in guided evolution. They think they're creating a controlled way to regain what they lost, Hanji explained to the group. But they don't understand human nature. The more they try to control us, the more we resist. A message flashed on her hidden communicator. The last transmission she'd received from the program facility before they changed their security codes. It contained a single line in Yuna's real writing, complete with a spelling mistake. "Mom, something's weird here. Please come soon." Hanji touched the screen gently. "Hold on, sweetheart," she whispered. "We're coming." Outside, council ships continued their endless patrol, their golden light illuminating a city that felt more like a prison every day. But in the shadows below, parents were organizing, gathering evidence, and preparing to show the council a truth they have forgotten. Never underestimate a species fighting for its children. The truth had emerged from their golden cage. Now it was time to act. 1 month into the Youth Excellence Program, Hanji stared at her communication screen, reading Yuna's latest message for the 10th time. The words were perfect, too perfect, like they had been filtered through council translation software. "Dear Mother, the program continues to challenge and enlighten us. Our understanding grows daily. The council provides excellent care. Please do not worry about the reduced communication schedule. It is necessary for optimal learning conditions." Hanji's fingers traced the screen. This wasn't how her daughter wrote. Yuna's messages were usually full of excitement, random observations, and at least 3 spelling mistakes. This read like a council report. In her lab, Hanji began noticing patterns. Other parents of program participants reported similar changes in their children's messages. All communications came at exactly the same time, with similar phrasing. When she tried to visit the program's learning center, she found the location had been moved to a more suitable facility off-planet. Late one night, Hanji used her scientific clearance to access the council's research database. She wasn't supposed to look at files outside her field, but she had learned to exploit small gaps in their security. The council's perfect systems had tiny flaws that human minds were surprisingly good at finding. The first encrypted files she found made her blood run cold. Charts tracking human neural development showed rapid changes in program participants. Notes discussed unprecedented adaptation rates and optimal harvesting conditions. Hanji dug deeper, her hands shaking as she bypassed security protocols. More files revealed the truth. The Council had been searching the galaxy for species with unique cognitive abilities. Humans had something they hadn't seen before: the ability to understand and improve Council technology in ways even they couldn't predict. A new message appeared on her screen. "Your access to this terminal has been noted. Please remain at your station for security processing." Hanji quickly copied key files to her personal device and erased her access traces. She was halfway to the exit when she heard the smooth whir of Council security drones. Racing through back corridors, she made it to her apartment just as alarms began sounding in the distance. She packed quickly: emergency supplies, hidden data crystals, and most importantly, the old family photos of Yuna that proved who her daughter really was. A knock at her door made her freeze. "Dr. Hanji." It was Mr. Kim's voice. "Please, I need help. They took Minho too." She opened the door carefully. Mr. Kim looked terrible, his face pale and drawn. "I found something," he whispered. "In the Council's medical files. They're not just teaching our children, they're changing them." Hanji pulled him inside as a Council ship passed by her window. "I know. They're using the program to accelerate human evolution. They want to harness our ability to innovate. But why? They're so far advanced." "Because they can't do it themselves anymore," Hanji explained, showing him the files she'd stolen. "The Council species engineered themselves for perfection generations ago. They lost the ability to think in new ways. But humans, we're still evolving, still adapting. And our children are doing it faster than anyone expected." More alarms sounded outside. Mr. Kim peered through the window. "Council security is entering the building. We have to go." "Not without our children," Hanji said firmly. She pulled out a data pad showing orbital patterns of Council ships. "Look at these transport schedules. They're moving the children to a research station in the Carina sector. If we can access a communication hub, we might be able to reach them." The children might not want to leave, Mr. Kim said quietly. The files show they're using neural modification. They could be changing how our children think. Hanji's jaw tightened. They can modify their brains, but they can't change who they are. Yuma is my daughter. She'll remember that when she sees me. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Hanji quickly sent encoded copies of her evidence to other parents of program participants. Even if she was caught, the truth would spread. They escaped through the building's maintenance tunnels as Council security broke down her door. Above them, more ships gathered like storm clouds, their golden light now seeming less like protection and more like searchlights. In an abandoned subway station, Hanji met other parents who had discovered the truth. They shared information, building a clearer picture of the Council's plans. The Youth Excellence Program wasn't just on Earth. Similar programs were running on other worlds, all feeding into the Council's grand experiment in guided evolution. They think they're creating a controlled way to regain what they lost, Hanji explained to the group. But they don't understand human nature. The more they try to control us, the more we resist. A message flashed on her hidden communicator. The last transmission she'd received from the program facility before they changed their security codes. It contained a single line in Yuna's real writing, complete with a spelling mistake. "Mom, something's wrong here. I miss you. The Council isn't what they seem." Hanji clutched the communicator to her chest. Her daughter was still in there, still fighting. Now it was her turn to fight back. Outside, Council ships continued their endless patrol, their golden light illuminating a city that felt more like a prison every day. But in the shadows below, parents were organizing, gathering evidence, and preparing to show the Council a truth they have forgotten. Never underestimate a species fighting for its children. "Hold on, Yuna," Hanji whispered into the darkness. "I'm coming for you." The truth had emerged from their golden cage. Now it was time to act. In a dimly lit basement beneath an abandoned library, Hanji met with a small group of parents. The room hummed with the soft static of signal jammers, their only protection against Council surveillance. Jae-ho, a former communications specialist, worked at a makeshift console pieced together from pre-Council technology. "The old satellites still work," Jae-ho explained, his fingers dancing across ancient keyboards. The Council thought they were too primitive to be a threat, so they never bothered to disable them. His son had been among the first children taken to the program. Hanji watched as strings of data scrolled across the screen. They had discovered that the Council's perfect systems had blind spots, gaps where older, simpler technology could slip through unnoticed. There, Jae-ho pointed to a pattern in the data. "That's the transport signature we've been tracking. The children aren't just in the Karina sector, they're in a specific facility. Research Station 7. A soft knock at the door made everyone freeze. The pattern, 3 quick taps, too slow, identified it as friendly. A Council maintenance worker entered, but not one of the tall, elegant beings they were used to. This one was shorter, with rough gray skin and large eyes. "I am Kur," it said in halting human speech. "My species serves the Council, but we question things now." Hanji studied the alien carefully. "Why help us?" "Because we were like you once," Kur replied. "The Council came to our world too, offered to help us evolve. Now we maintain their ships, but we lost something. Something important." It touched its chest. The spark. The thing that makes your children so special. Over the next few weeks, more allies emerged. Service species from different worlds, all sharing similar stories. The Council's perfect society was built on harvested innovation, taken from developing species before they could become strong enough to resist. Hanji worked with Jae-ho to establish a secure communication network. They used old radio frequencies, paper messages, and even children's games as codes. The Council's advanced monitoring systems skipped right over these primitive methods. "Look at this," Jae-ho said one night, showing Hanji a transmission they'd intercepted. "The facility is running tests on the children. They're not just studying them, They're trying to replicate their cognitive patterns. Hanji studied the data. They're failing, though. Every attempt to copy the children's innovation process falls short. Because they don't understand what makes us human, Jiho said softly. They think it's just brain patterns, but it's more. It's love, fear, hope, all the messy things they engineered out of themselves. Through Kerr, they learned more about Research Station 7. The facility was vast but vulnerable. The Council's confidence in their superiority had made them careless with certain security measures. The children are not harmed, Keir assured them. But they are changing. The Council reshapes their thoughts, little by little. Soon they may forget who they were. Hanji received another message from Yuna, this one through official channels. Mother, my understanding grows exponentially. The Council's wisdom guides us toward perfection. But hidden within the message, using a code they'd developed when Yuna was young, was another message. Mom, remember my birthday cake. When it fell and we fixed it. We need fixing now. Hanji remembered that day. The cake had collapsed, but instead of crying, Yuna had helped turn it into a mountain of delicious cake pieces and frosting. They had turned a failure into something new, something uniquely human. The network of parents grew stronger. They gathered evidence, mapped facility layouts, and prepared. Other Council service species, inspired by their resistance, began providing information. Even some lower-ranking Council members, those who remembered what it was like to feel emotion, secretly aided them. We're not just fighting for our children anymore, Hanji told the group during a late-night meeting. We're fighting for every species the Council has tried to perfect. We're fighting for the right to be imperfect. Through carefully encrypted channels, they managed to send messages to the children. Simple things. Family photos, favorite songs, memories of home. Anything to keep their humanity alive under the Council's modifications. The Council doesn't understand what they've done, Jiho said as they worked. They've gathered all our brightest children in one place and taught them everything about Council technology. They thought they were creating perfect tools, but they're creating something else entirely. Hanji finished. They're creating a generation that knows their weaknesses. A message from Research Station 7 blinked on their screen. Coordinates, security rotations, access codes. More and more of the facility's staff were quietly joining their cause. Outside, Council ships still patrolled, their golden light washing over the city. But in hidden places, humans and their allies moved in the shadows, preparing to remind the galaxy that perfection wasn't everything. The silent steps of resistance were growing louder. Looking at Yuna's last real photo, Hanji whispered, "Hold on, sweetheart. Sometimes the best way to beat perfection is to embrace what makes us wonderfully flawed." Inside the vast chamber of the Galactic Assembly, Hanji stood before representatives of 1,000 worlds. The Council members sat in their elevated positions, their perfect faces showing the first traces of concern she had ever seen. Distinguished members of the Assembly, Hanji began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. I am here to present evidence of a program that affects not just humanity, but every species in this Council. Behind her, a holographic display came to life, showing data collected over months of secret observation. The Youth Excellence Program was presented as an educational opportunity. The truth is far different. She displayed brain scans of the children before and after entering the program. These changes aren't natural development. They are forced evolution, attempting to reshape young minds into what the Council considers perfect. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Hanji continued, bringing up new evidence. But something unexpected happened. The children began teaching their keepers. The next image showed Yuna and other human children, working with young aliens from various species. Their work showed impossible combinations of Council technology, merged and improved in ways the original designers hadn't imagined. My daughter and her friends didn't just learn your technology, Hanji explained. They reimagined it, not because they were modified to do so, but because they were human. Because imperfection breeds creativity. A council member stood, its perfect features arranged in diplomatic concern. These children are being guided toward a better future. Their minds are being enhanced. Enhanced. Hanji touched a control, and new images appeared. These are messages from the children to their families. Watch how they change over time. Their words become perfect, their thoughts aligned with council doctrine. You're not enhancing them. You're erasing them. She played a recording. Children's laughter echoing through Research Station 7's halls as they taught younger aliens games from Earth. This is what you've forgotten. Joy. Play. The beautiful chaos of being alive. From the back of the chamber, a small group of council service species entered. Kerr led them, carrying more evidence. We support this truth, they announced. We were like them once, before we were perfected. Hanji saw some council members shift uncomfortably. You've spent generations pursuing perfection, she said softly. But look what it cost you. The ability to dream, to imagine, to create something truly new. The chamber's displays changed again, showing innovations made by the human children. Improvements to council technology that shouldn't have been possible. They did this not because they were perfect, but because they weren't. Because they could still see possibilities where you see only patterns. More species began standing, adding their voices, stories of their own lost children, their own faded creativity. The council's perfect facade began to crack. We don't want to fight you, Hanji continued. We want to help you remember what you've lost. My daughter and her friends, they've already begun. They're teaching your children how to play again, how to question, how to imagine. She displayed a final image, a drawing Yuna had made, showing humans and council species working together, surrounded by new inventions and possibilities. This is what freedom looks like. Not perfect, not controlled, but alive with potential. The chamber erupted in discussion. Council members conferred urgently among themselves. Hanji stood her ground, watching as centuries of rigid control began to dissolve. A younger council member approached her, its perfect features softened by something like wonder. The children. They've been teaching our young ones Earth games. Yesterday, I heard my own child laugh. I had forgotten that sound. More evidence poured in from Research Station 7. The children had turned their prison into a school of imagination. Species that had served the council for generations were remembering their own creativity. You wanted to perfect humanity. Hanji addressed the council directly. Instead, humanity is reminding you what perfection cost you. We offer you something better than perfect control. We offer you growth. The council's leadership huddled in intense discussion. When they finally turned back to the assembly, their perfect composure showed cracks of uncertainty and hope. Perhaps, their leader said slowly, it is time for the council to learn some new lessons. Hanji felt tears in her eyes as a new message appeared on her personal device. It was from Yuna, in her own words, with her familiar spelling mistakes. Mom, you should see what we're making here. The council kids are amazing when they let themselves be free. When are you coming to visit? We've got so much to show you. The assembly chamber buzzed with new energy as species began talking openly, sharing stories of their own creative past. The council's golden age of perfection was ending. Something messier, more vibrant, was taking its place. Hanji smiled, touching the screen with her daughter's message. Sometimes the best victory wasn't in defeating your opponent, but in helping them remember who they used to be. The tables had turned, and the future looked beautifully imperfect. In the main observation hall of Research Station 7, council members gathered to watch something they had never expected. A concert. Human children, led by Yuna, had combined council sound technology with Earth instruments to create music that made the perfect beings feel emotions they had forgotten existed. Hanji watched from the negotiation table as her daughter guided the alien children through the performance. The sound rippled through the station, part symphony, part electronic pulse, pure innovation. Even the most rigid council members couldn't help swaying to the rhythm. "This is not in any of our databases," one council member whispered, its perfect features showing confusion and wonder. "How are they creating these patterns?" "They're not following patterns," Hanji explained. "They're making something new. This is what freedom looks like." The station had transformed over the past weeks. Sterile walls now displayed artwork combining Earth styles with alien perspectives. Children from a dozen species worked together in spaces that had once been testing labs, building hybrid technologies that worked in ways the Council had never imagined. Yuna moved through the groups, her confidence growing daily. "Look what we discovered," she called to her mother, holding up a device that shimmered with impossible colors. "We combined Council-like technology with human color theory. It can show emotions." The device projected a swirling aurora of colors that changed with the music. Council members who had engineered emotion out of their species generations ago found themselves experiencing feelings they couldn't name. "Your daughter has been teaching our children how to play," a council educator said to Hanji, the word play sounding foreign on its perfect tongue. "They're solving problems we never knew existed." In another room, children had created a new form of communication that combined council telepathic technology with human body language. Ideas flowed between species in ways that transcended traditional language. "We don't need neural modification," Yuna explained to a group of fascinated council scientists. "We just need to be free to try new things, even if we fail sometimes." The word fail made the council members flinch, but they couldn't deny the results. The children's failures often led to discoveries the council's perfect systems had missed. Hanji led the negotiations for human independence with new confidence. "Look at what happens when species work together as equals," she said, gesturing to the creative chaos around them. "Your perfection gave us amazing tools. Our humanity shows new ways to use them." More council service species came forward, inspired by the children's freedom. They shared stories of their own lost creativity, their own forgotten songs and games. The council's perfect hierarchy was crumbling in the face of simple joy. "We were wrong," a senior council member admitted during one session. "We thought we could control evolution, direct it toward perfection. But your children show us that true growth comes from freedom to explore." Yuna and her friends had started teaching younger council children Earth games, modified with alien technology. The sound of laughter, something rare in council space, echoed through corridors that had once known only quiet efficiency. "Mom," Yuna called out during a break in negotiations, "we found out why the council's genetic engineering always hits a wall. They're trying to program creativity. That's not how it works. Watch this." She demonstrated a game the children had invented, combining Earth puzzles with council probability mechanics. The solution required both logical perfection and creative leaps that no algorithm could predict. Council scientists recorded everything, not to control it now, but to understand. They were learning that true progress came from the messy collaboration of different minds working freely. "The children have accessed abilities we thought lost to us," another council member reported. "They show us possibilities we have forgotten to imagine." Hanji watched as Yuna helped a young council child draw its first picture, not a perfect technical diagram, but a wonderful, messy expression of joy. The child's parent, a high-ranking council official, touched the drawing with trembling fingers. "I remember," the official said softly. "I remember when we used to create like this." The station became a symbol of change throughout council space. Species that had been perfectly controlled for generations began to remember their own creative heritage. The council's careful hierarchy was being replaced by something more chaotic, but infinitely more alive. "We don't want to break away from the council," Hanji explained in the final negotiations. "We want to help build something new together. Not perfect, not controlled, but growing." As if to emphasize her point, a new sound filled the station. A choir of human and alien children, their voices joining in a song that had never been heard before in the galaxy. It was beautiful precisely because it wasn't perfect. The council's facade had cracked, revealing something more valuable than perfection, possibility. And in the middle of it all, Yuma and her friends continued to teach, learn, and create, showing the galaxy that the future belonged not to those who sought perfection, but to those brave enough to remain wonderfully, creatively human. Hanji looked at her daughter, now confidently teaching council children how to dance, and smiled. They had broken free not by fighting the council's perfection, but by showing them a better way. The age of perfect control was ending. The age of creative freedom had begun. The new Galactic Integration Center rose from Earth's surface like a dream made real, a beautiful fusion of council precision and human creativity. Hanji stood in its central chamber, watching as delegates from across the galaxy gathered for the historic occasion. 3 years had passed since the council admitted their mistake. Now, Earth was hosting the first gathering of emerging species under the new protocols that Yuma had helped design. Mom. Yuma, now 15, rushed over with a group of alien youngsters following her. The delegates from the Centauri worlds just arrived. They're so nervous, but wait until they see what we've prepared. Hanji smiled at her daughter's enthusiasm. Yuma had grown into her role as a bridge between worlds, helping new species navigate their entry into the galactic community without losing their unique qualities. The chamber filled with representatives from dozens of worlds. Council members, their perfect features now capable of genuine expression, mingled with species at various stages of development. The strict hierarchy of the past was gone, replaced by a vibrant exchange of ideas and cultures. The human approach has proven far more effective than our previous methods, a council elder admitted to Hanji. We sought to perfect others, but your daughter showed us the value of imperfect growth. The integration ceremony began with something unprecedented, a celebration of differences. Each species demonstrated what made them unique, sharing not just their technological achievements, but their art, music, and dreams. Yuna led a presentation that combined the best of all worlds. Council technology enhanced by human innovation, creating displays that showed the potential of cooperation. Young aliens who had once feared showing imperfection now proudly displayed their own creative interpretations. This is how we grow together, Yuna explained to the assembled delegates, not by becoming the same, but by learning from our differences. Hanji watched proudly as her daughter moved confidently through the crowd, switching easily between languages and customs she had learned during her time in the program. What the council had intended as a way to control humanity had instead become a gift, understanding that bridged worlds. The new protocols were elegantly simple. Emerging species would be welcomed as equals, offered guidance but never control. Their unique characteristics would be celebrated as contributions to the galactic community rather than flaws to be corrected. I remember when we thought we had to be perfect, a young council member said to Hanji. Now my own child creates art and asks questions we never dared to ask. Humanity taught us to be brave enough to grow. Earth's position in the galaxy had transformed. Ships from all species now visited freely, exchanging not just technology, but culture and ideas. The Council's former research stations had become centers of innovation where different species collaborated without hierarchy. Watch this, Yuma called out, activating a display that showed the growth of interspecies cooperation over the past 3 years. Points of light spread across the galactic map like stars being born, each representing a new connection, a new exchange of ideas. Hanji remembered standing in this same spot years ago, watching council ships descend with their offers of perfect guidance. Now Earth's skies were filled with vessels of all shapes and sizes, each bringing their own gifts to share. We were wrong to fear imperfection, the Council's chief representative announced to the gathering. Humanity showed us that true growth comes from embracing our differences and learning from each other. The ceremony concluded with a moment that would have been impossible under the old regime. A group of children from different species performing a piece they had created together. It wasn't perfect by Council standards, but it was alive with possibility and joy. Later, as the celebrations continued, Hanji found Yuna standing by a window. watching ships come and go in the evening sky. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Yuna asked, still radiating excitement from the day's events. Hanji hugged her daughter close. "You made it happen, sweetheart. You and all the other children who dared to show the Council a different way." "We're getting messages from new species every day," Yuna said. "They're not afraid to join the galaxy anymore. They know they don't have to be perfect." The stars shone brightly over the Integration Center, no longer seeming distant and cold. Earth had found its place among them, not as a supervised child, but as a teacher of something the Council had forgotten: the power of embracing imperfection and growing together. "This is just the beginning," Hanji said softly, watching her daughter's eyes shine with plans for the future. "There are so many more worlds to meet, so many new ways to grow." The new dawn had arrived, not with the blinding perfection the Council had once sought, but with the warm, diverse light of countless species learning to shine together. And at its heart was the simple truth that had changed everything. Sometimes the most perfect solution is allowing yourself to be wonderfully, beautifully imperfect.